Well, good morning to you all. And in case I forget, happy Mother's Day to all of you for whom that counts. I was born of a mother, but doesn't work. So, here you have this commandment, which you've all heard before, that Jesus tells the followers that they must love each other. And the odd thing about this for some people is that he commands it. It sounds odd because you don't think that love could be commanded. It would have to sort of flow naturally. But Jesus seems to tell them that when it doesn't flow naturally, I'm not really asking you to do it when you feel like it. I'm telling you, you must love. Which, of course, love under difficult circumstances is the hardest thing to do. Whenever we have been, you would say, hurt, or we feel slighted, or we feel wronged, or we feel someone has trespassed against us, then we do not feel like loving at all. And apparently that is what happened in John's little community, the people who wrote this gospel. Apparently they were having lots of problems with each other. And their church or their community was in great conflict and divided and struggling to stay together. And so when they wrote the gospel down, they emphasized this part almost more than any other, that Jesus, he does not say love the world and love everyone. No, he's very specific. You must love one another, the person in the pew next to you, the person in your own little group. Even though you may have been slighted or wronged or have a disagreement or don't see things eye to eye, still, he says, I command you, you must love one another, no matter what. It seems to me that love is a big term and many definitions, many aspects. One of the ways it feels right to me is that love feels like a kind of an energy or a force that flows and moves and is active, and it flows and moves between people like an energy, or between you and God, even for you and yourself, your own inner love for yourself. It's like a flow and a movement and an energy. It comes in and it goes out. It comes in, you receive it, and then you also give it away. And it feels like a form of energy. You might think of it analogously, like you say water flowing through a conduit. And you turn on the spigot, it comes out, and then it goes down and leaves the house again. In my own thinking, in my own experience, it seems to me that within us, we have a spigot, we have a faucet. It would be the place of the heart. And you can turn it on and open it up, or it can be shut off and closed down. Whenever we are hurt, or whenever we are afraid, whenever we feel we have been harmed, the most natural thing to do is to turn off the spigot, to shut the heart down, to close the aperture down, to shrink and contract and to pull back. It's very natural. But then love cannot flow. It cannot flow to you, and you cannot give it away. You cut the circuit, or you turn off the faucet. Whenever we are shrunk down or contracted, we naturally close off and keep people away. The heart shrinks and the love stops. That's why Jesus would tell us, and he told the people back then, You must keep your love for each other alive. You must keep your heart open. You must keep your heart open so that the love can continue to come in, and then also you may continue to give it out. That's why I think he said it's a command. It is so important, and it cannot just be based on how you feel, but you must actively keep your heart open, even when you've been harmed, even when you've been slighted, even when someone needs to apologize. The community will only stay a loving community if we can keep our hearts open towards each other, keep our hearts open towards God. As the collect says, Lord, pour into our hearts such love. God cannot pour anything in if there's a lid on top. If the aperture is so small, nothing can get in, and then nothing can get out. There are so many occasions when I thought someone needed to apologize to me, and instead I kind of lashed out at them to give them a payback. You know? The funny thing about when you do the retaliation, or you do the I'm going to win this, it always sounds like a good idea at the beginning. And if you think to yourself, you know, I'm just going to tell them what's right about this. I'll show them. And I'll explain to them in not uncertain terms why they are completely wrong and they've offended me. I did it just the other day. Well, I probably did it 5 minutes ago, but I'll pretend it was a long time ago, right? The truth is, we were having a meeting out here we were outside, walking along the drainage ditch. And the person from the highway department came, and we were so happy that he came from the text dot, because we were thinking a lot of the water from the highway makes our ditch too full. That's what we were thinking. So we were so happy that he came. Maybe they would want to help us with a solution of how to make the ditch better or solve the problem. They were not that receptive to the idea. Basically, he just came out and said, well, not my problem. We did the studies beforehand, and whatever studies we probably did, probably said everything was fine. So go talk to the city, but we can't help you. And I thought that was not very nice. So I got really angry, because the city people were there too at the meeting, and they were following along. And I said back, because I was mad, and I said, you know, the water's going to get into that ditch when it rains. It's going to come from the highway, and it's going to go out under this road over here. And the next time it rains, I can guarantee you the water's not going to go in our basement. We'll just build a dam or a wall or a berm, and either it's going to be a lake over there in the mall, or it's going to be a waterfall over your road, but it's not going to go in my church. But then, weeks later, I thought, I shouldn't have said that. For one thing, I can't really pull it off. It was not a threat I could really act on. And it's funny when you want to retaliate, when you throw your anger out, and you think it's going to be cathartic, or you think it's going to win, it actually just feels like you got doo-doo back on you. I don't know how that works, but that's my experience. You think it's going to feel good to revenge, but it doesn't work. It actually shrinks the heart. It makes my heart get smaller. So love can't get in and love can't get out. So in order to keep the heart open, I'm just thinking we probably should not act out of vengeance or retaliation or payback. You think it's going to feel good, But it's like a mirror somehow. You put it out there, and somehow it comes back on you, and it shrinks your heart. I know it looks good in the movies. Every movie is about somebody did something to me, so now I get to go do something to them. Very complicated plot, right? It sounds like we should do it, but my experience is when you do the negative, it actually shrinks my heart. You always hear this in terms of crime victims when you get real serious. And the crime victim has been hurt and injured, and they've been wounded, and they shut down naturally. And the perpetrator, they want revenge. And somehow, in real serious cases, when the person goes to jail or the person is executed, the person who is hurt, not always, but many times, the person who is hurt does not feel a whole lot better. Their hole is still big in them, right? I mean, they've been injured, and to retaliate only brings it up again. It doesn't fill the hole up. It's still a hole. They're in jail or they're dead, and I'm still crushed. I heard a radio interview this past week, and it was an interview about a book. The woman was writing a book about her father. Her father is Korean, and he had been a Korean soldier in the Korean War, and he had been imprisoned in the North Korean prisoner of war camp. He has horrible stories to tell about what happens in war camps. They're horrible. Probably some of the worst things you can do to a human being happens in those kind of situations. Death is everywhere. Every day somebody died. He was doing hard labor and starving and sick. And many people died. And so it turns out that the daughter didn't know that part of the story. So she's writing a book about her dad's life and how he recovered, how he got out of the war. He survived, got back, became a United States citizen, and went on with his life. And the interviewer on the radio said, what's it like for you? Have you been able to reconcile what happened in the past? Have you, she didn't want to say it out loud because it sounds ridiculous. Have you forgiven your perpetrators? You know, prisoner of war, it's like, I'm not sure I'd even be asking that question. But she did, you know, how did your life move forward? And he said this, he said, and he wasn't trying to brag, he was just explaining what happened. He said, well, I'm a practicing Christian. So I forgave them. This is 30 years later, 40 years later, but I was so impressed by that term. He said, well, I'm a practicing Christian. Jesus says, you must love one another. I command you, you must do it. If you do not love one another and you let the grievances and the hurts and the fears of the past separate you, it would just shrink your heart down. The aperture will get smaller and smaller. God's love cannot get in. Your love cannot get out. Jesus says you must love one another. You must keep your heart open. Keep your heart open. In John's community, they were divided and broken. They were all struggling to keep their hearts open and actually love their own people, love them, their own community. And I know in my life, and I know in your life, you have so many things that would cause you to pull back and to retreat and to shut down and to close off and shrink your heart. But it's the only way for love to get in, and it's the only way for love to get out. I command you, you must love each other. And you must keep your heart open.